Progress.
All right. All right. Hi, everybody. How we doing?
Good.
Oh,
Good,
Good.
thank you.
good, thank you.
Yay. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Well, let's jump right in. A couple of things I wanted to mention before starting class today. Some of you may have heard me talk on Monday and at our team meeting, both here and at Living, about this program that Janice and I are putting together, which is this. It's to be, we're calling it KWPC certified. So not really certified. It's just a fake little certification. For those of you who want to participate and get on a list, so that when an agent in the office at either location is looking for someone to host an open for them and or show houses for them when they're on vacation. So what we're trying to do is say, hey, busy agents out there at our market centers, feel comfortable when you're on vacation or you're busy doing something else like getting married or having a baby or whatever the things are. We have a list of agents that are in PC that have taken particular trainings and fulfilled criteria to kind of get on this list so that it doesn't have to be like how we did yesterday. And it's funny how this happened. I mentioned it at both team meetings, and then on Tuesday after our legacy team meeting, two agents already came to me, and then another one yesterday saying, hey, I have open houses that I need held this weekend. Do you have somebody? So that's great. And that happens, as we know, all the time. And then I kind of just go in the chat like I did the other day. Hey, does anyone want to host? And then does anyone want to shadow? This way I'm going to have a list, and Janice is going to have a list at Living of the agents that participated in the trainings that we put together. And this way, it won't be kind of as unorganized as it kind of has been now. Janice, as you're joining us, I was just trying to tell the group about our KWPC certification that we're coming up with. And so stand by later today. I'm going to upload the information, which is kind of a checklist. Well, not kind of, it is a checklist. For the open house certification, as well as then a buyer showing certification. And remember, I'm using the word certification, but I promise you, you're not getting a certification. There's nothing that's going to go after your name on your business card that says you were certified. It's a pretend certification. In any case, so there's a list of things that you'll have to do and classes you'll have to come to. And I'm not going to make anybody like start over. If some of these things, and Janice, I'm sure you would agree, if you've already attended this class, then you can check it off. Janice and I will be kind of initialing that checklist to get you on this master list that I would love to be having kind of as a running list that we're going to, it's going to be continuous. It's not going to be something that we're just doing right now. It's not something that we're going to do once or twice a year. It's going to be an ongoing thing that someone can, participate in, because obviously we always have new people coming. And it's going to be, for example, you're going to have to come to how to host an open house class. You're going to have open house signs. You're going to have to be able to do social media marketing. So you're going to have to have attended a social media class to be able to show houses and us to pass on your name. Janice and I are putting our stamp of approval. So if an agent, is in our office and they call and say, hey, I'm out of town and I need someone to show this house, this buyer for me, we're putting our reputation on the line by saying, hey, I'm going to recommend this person. And then they, don't handle their self properly with somebody else's client. So not only then will they never use that agent again, they may not come to us again and look for our recommendations. So that's why we're kind of putting this together. So things like for being able to show houses, you're going to have to have taken an MLS class. That means you're going to have to know how to schedule showings. And then because like something that happened to Janice recently when she's helping somebody out on vacation, that buyer wanted to write an offer. So the person that she's helping is on vacation out of the country. So it's not a simple, well, you can wait for them to come back. That offer needs written. So you need to be able to know how to get into dotloop and actually write and execute a contract. So you'll have to do some things for us to kind of put our stamp of approval on it for you. So watch for that later today. I'm gonna upload it right into the Google Drive. I'll put in the chat what I decide to call the folder where the information's gonna land, but I just wanted to mention that. You'll probably get sick of hearing Janice and I talking about it, but as you guys all know, there's always different people at classes on Zoom and in person, so not everybody has heard it before. And I also know not everybody pays attention in the chat all the time. Do you know how I know? Because when I go into the list, it tells me the last time you logged on, guys. If you didn't know that, it does. So we know when it says so-and-so hasn't been on the chat, and it'll say in a long time. So I know that, we're not always on top of it. So I will mention this from time to time. Anything else that you want to add to that, Janice?
Nope, I think that was perfect.
Awesome. All right. So let's jump in. I'm going to do a share screen here and we will get started. Today's class is on how to work with and build your top 50 database. And I think I'm going to start there. And then the 5x5 approach, and we're going to go through that in detail. So before I get started on that, I've got this nice little form, and let me zoom in on that a little bit. This is in the Google Drive, guys. So if it's the first time that you're seeing this document, don't worry, you don't have to try to write this down. It is in the Google Drive training folder, and I believe that it's just titled as it is 150 ways to build your database, and it will pop up. So it is in there. And so I guess the first question I have for you all here and on Zoom, who even knows what is my database? That's one question. Do we know what a database is? And who knows or has questions about what does it actually mean to say a top 50 database?
Our database would be anybody we want to reach out to and have for referrals or customers or anything, anyone that could be that we would know or be able to have contact with or have a touch with.
Absolutely. So your database is everybody I know that I've put into a location. So I've put them all into command, or I've put them all into a file folder, whatever you do with them. Our cell phone is a database, guys. We don't even know it, but our cell phone's actually a database. So it's any place that's a collection of the people that we know in some way, or maybe sometimes don't even know, but I have their name, at least, and I hopefully have at least their phone number or email address. And then I'm going to audit that database from time to time so that I can make sure that the main goal is I have their name, number, email address, and home address. So that way I can mail to them as well. So your goal with your database is to keep growing it, but also to make sure that you have content information and ways of being able to reach them. And as we'll talk about here later today, then also taking that database a step further and cross-referencing that from social media. So starting with who's in my cell phone and how can I dump them into command or whatever CRM, which is your contact management system that I'm using. And then now let me look on social media and see who are all these people that I'm friends with. By the way, rule out the real estate agents, because I know you guys are friends with all kinds of real estate agents, as I am too. Rule them out. And then are the people I'm friends with on social media that I don't really know? I know you guys have this because I do too. Ever go to the coffee shop locally and you see that girl, that guy, you're like, oh, them on Facebook, but I have no idea who they are. So I'm not going to like walk up and say, hey, I saw you were on vacation last week, because it would be weird, right? We don't really know them. We just are friends with them on social media, and we might comment and like each other's posts, but you never actually approach that person. Well, they should be still in your database. They know you enough to like your posts. You like their posts. We comment. Why aren't they also in our database? So another thing I'm going to talk about today is why and how you should have all your social media friends should be in your CRM. And then all the people in your CRM, you should be friends with on social media. It should be combined, like it should be really the same. And that way you can touch them in different ways. In very light, easy, bulk kind of ways of touching hundreds of people all at one time. So we're going to talk more about that. But here, this particular form talks about the 150 ways to grow your database. And then we're going to touch on what does a top 50 mean. Anybody have an answer to that? I know Kim answered what is your database, but does anyone know what a top 50 database is?
People who have used you or that you're in contact with. More for potential business.
Yeah, so you're on the right track. So your top 50 database is defined as this. It is someone who has used your services in real estate before or has referred you business before. So that means that a friend of mine who maybe never bought or sold, but they referred me a family member. It's not the family member that's in my top 50. It's the person that gave me the referral. So as you're building your top 50, and really your top 50 is just another tag. So in your CRM, in whatever you're using, but we're just going to roll with pretending like everybody uses Command, because guess what? As Keller Williams agents, we get that for free. So we should definitely be utilizing it. So assuming that you're using Command, you have something called tags. There's tags that are already created there, but you can also customize tags. So your tags are going to look like this: buyers, sellers, SOI, which is your sphere of influence, past clients, could be someone I met from open house. Also, a tag should be top 50. And top 50 doesn't have to necessarily be 50 people. It could be 10. But they're still going to have a top 50 tag because eventually you're going to build to 50. By the way, should there ever be 51 in your top 50? No, no. Even big teams who sell a lot of houses have a top 50 database within their database of 5,000 people. So your top 50 are special people. Those are people that I can really get a handle on and nurture in such a way that it can continue to give me repeat business and referrals. So that's why it's really important to be able to know that you should have a top 50. But I'm not going to read through all these 150 ways, but I just wanted to kind of touch on to show you, give you an example of what that looks like on here. There's just so many different people that maybe you've never thought of that are in your possible top 50, or at least in your database. So when someone says, I don't know anybody, I'm not from here, well, there's always somebody. There's a ton of things that you can look at here to help you with that. So there's that list. As I said, it's in the Google Drive, so we're not gonna read through it. All right. So when you have your database and you have your top 50, there's things that you need to do. So it's not enough, I know you know, just to have them in there. Do people know they're in my, like we all know, especially right now with the iPhone, like it constantly wants you to share your contact, your new updated photo, your new updated this and that. If you did the update a few months back, does anyone know that? Do they know that when they call you, you don't actually have them in your contacts? Do you know who actually has you in their contacts as a person? No. So if you're not doing something with that database, they don't know that they're there. You didn't ask their permission to put them in your database. The only way they're going to know that they're in your database is if you're touching your database. So we need to be doing different things to be reaching out to everybody so that they know that you not only think they're important, but that you actually want their business. It's such an interesting thing when you talk to people in your life, when they say things like this: oh, I didn't know that you were really focused on real estate because I thought you did this other job. I think of you as my landscaper or whatever, you know? And I didn't know that real estate was really serious for you. I thought that was like a part-time gig. Or they'll say, oh, I thought you were new. I thought you were still in training. Or I didn't even know that you wanted my business because I thought you were too busy in real estate. Like there's a number of things that people say. So we have to let them know that we're never too busy for their business and that we actually want their business. So a part of the things that we do as a real estate agent is growing our database, but more importantly, having different campaigns to be able to reach out. And we're going to dig in a little bit deeper of what that's going to look like here when we go to the 5 approach. But here's just an example of a touch campaign. So when people say, you know, what kind of a touch campaign, what should that look like? Again, it could be a combination of things. There's not a set campaign that you should use or that works better than another. I'll tell you this, as long as you have a touch campaign, it's going to work. There's not necessarily one that's better than another. So here's really just an example of ways that you can touch your database. Email marketing, 12 touches. So let's talk about that for a second. Doesn't really matter what it is, but if you don't want your hands to be in it constantly, and I know some of you feel that you're putting your personal touch on it. So again, I meet with you guys, I do one-on-ones, I talk to people in classes, I hear what you all say and what people think. When someone says to me, but I don't want someone to be in a touch campaign where it just automatically does it for me, I want to put a personal touch on it. And I know we have a lot of offenders. So what is it that you think is personal about you physically sitting down and typing up the email that's any different than having one that you've created, that you personally created, that you let the CRM send it out for you? Your people, they don't know that they got it along with 3,000 other people. They don't. So it's an excuse, honestly, to not learn the systems that can work for you. You shouldn't be spending time just doing those things that the system can, it's an enormous waste of time to try to personalize everything. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a time, because other touches are the personal reach outs, guys. I'm not saying take out the personal. But a simple thing for 12 touches a year is an email once a month. So now that means I have to have everybody's email address. And we'll talk in later classes and other things that we learn about is how do I get people's email addresses? That could be a newsletter that you create monthly. That could just be simply a really good smart plan that you have used that's in command or have adjusted. We have millions of smart plans that you can look at that other agents throughout the country for KW have already created. And you can, you know, use it as a template and then just make it your own. And that's one touch. Another touch monthly could be a market snapshot of a neighborhood. So even if this person isn't going to buy or sell, everybody's curious about the neighbor's house that sold down the street and what it looks like inside and what it sold for. So a really good email touch is just setting everybody that's in your database up in a market snapshot, and you're going to use the criteria based on their home address. So part 2, in my database, I need home addresses. It's important to have their home address, 1, so that you can do a market snapshot, and 2, so that you can send out those personal handwritten note cards and mail to them, right? Or maybe you do different kind of mailings throughout the year and it's easy enough to put them onto like a spreadsheet, like Christmas cards on a spreadsheet. That way I can print labels and I don't have to write out their address. If they're in my database, then I'm able to easily create those to be able to at least not have to write everybody's name and address. And then I can just personally write my card. So that's a couple of examples of email touches, which are really easy and can be set automatically. Let's see what else. Handwritten
That's
note.
for your top 50, right?
So
It's just,
so for email campaign or anyone in your database,
you just mass.
I think that they should be on an email for sure.
The Christmas cards.
Your top 50 is going to be more like, I'm going to actually give them the handwritten note cards. I can't send 5,000 handwritten note cards, you know. Actually, you can, because there's a particular pen and I forget exactly what it is, but it's like some kind of a felt tip pen that looks like so mark this down if you guys want to do it, that looks like the same way a printer would scan and copy a card. So you can actually write one handwritten note card and make copies of it. And there's a pen that matches the ink so that you can just personally write their name. So that you just write their name. And by the way, guys, don't send handwritten note cards that say, hey, neighbor, or hi there. Everybody knows that's not personal. And then they just throw it away. So you have to have a way of being able to at least write their name. So I don't remember, I don't do that anymore, but years ago I used to, and there is a particular pen. I'm sure I can do some research on that again. But a handwritten note card is going to go definitely to my top 50. And then beyond that, so I'm doing handwritten note cards to lots of different people, but definitely the top 50. Happy birthday cards, happy home anniversary cards, a lot of different categories there. A way to find out somebody's birthday without making it sound weird. One is on social media, of course. But like at closing, if it's going to be a past client, you should have some kind of a questionnaire or something that they could fill out at closing that asks questions like, what's your favorite gift card? What's your favorite candy? What's your favorite this? Get information about them. When are your children's birthdays? Things like that. And then that gives you a reason for another touch. Imagine that your real estate agent sends your kids a birthday card every single year with some kind of little $5 gift card to their favorite place or whatever. There's just a million different ideas like that. Calling and texting, that's 2 touches. So your database, in particular, your top 50 database, you should at least be calling or texting them twice a year to say, hey, how are things going? And here's where you use the Ford script. Who can tell me what Ford stands for in the Ford script?
I think it's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
Exactly. Yay. Very good. Thank you. Very good. And so the reason that we use the Ford script is because it reminds us, okay, I can call someone and say, hey, Kurt, how's your family doing? That gives you the script, right? Hey, I know that it seems like your business is doing really great. How's it going at the salon these days? Is the business growing? Is it slow? And then you can go into the other things with Ford. Ford is just a great example to give you something to say. Here's another thing that I say in my calls whenever I'm making those calls twice a year. I look at their social media, and we're going to talk about this as part of the 5x5 approach. I look at their social media and see something recent that they've been doing. And then that's the topic of what I'm calling about. So I'll say, hey, I saw that you guys were just on vacation, or you just went on a cruise, or you just did this thing. It looked like so much fun. And I just wanted to call and touch base with you and see how things are going. And then leads the conversation. Oh, yeah. And guess what happens if you ask somebody about their job? They ask you about your job. And then that way they brought up real estate and you didn't bring up real estate, right? Another thing that I use now, make sure you guys, when you're making those calls, you should be in front of your computer and making these notes, or at least making a note someplace. If you're driving in the car, making your calls, make sure that you update whatever you talk to them about in your CRM for sure. Because that's the way you can remember things that they talked about. I know we think we're going to remember all this stuff, but there's not enough room in that head of ours to be able to remember everything. And you don't want to say the same thing again, because here's another little script that I use when I'm calling someone. If I want to just sprinkle in real estate, I say something like, hey, Kim, I was driving by your house the other day when I was showing houses, and it made me think of you, and I just wanted to call and say hi. So I brought up real estate, but I didn't really bring up real estate. And then it kind of just keeps them thinking about you when you're thinking about real estate. And then, of course, you can end with something that just says, hey, if you know of anybody that's thinking about buying or selling, please just keep me top of mind. Also, when you're providing them with information throughout the year that makes you look like the expert in the area, then they will think of you, right? So we have to be branding ourselves and we have to be doing things to make sure that we're top of mind and that they think of us as the expert. If in association, the reason why a touch campaign is so important is because it's in association with all the other things that you're doing. It's not just one. It's a combination of these things. So imagine that they're getting an email from you once a month with a market snapshot. And then twice a year you call them, they already are thinking of you as the expert because you send them that information. They don't necessarily need to know that it came from our system. But be familiar with what you're sending them as well before you call. And then pop buys. So either invite them to an event. Maybe you're going to do events. Maybe that's one of the things that you're going to do to generate business. I would also say invite them to open houses that you're having that's around them. Hey, I'm going to be an open house down the street from you or in the next neighborhood or in the community, wherever. If you want to pop by and say hi, I'd love to see you. I know you're not looking at buying a house, just come see me at open house, whatever. Invites are really good, or pop buys with something. So we've been talking a lot about different ideas for pop buys. So pop buys could, of course, could be something that you do to farm a neighborhood, but can also be something that you do for your database. And in particular, starting with your top 50. So that could be, right now, just was Valentine's Day, right? I was talking to several of you and you guys were bagging up little bags of candies to drop by to a handful of past clients from last year. So that's a nice little pop by right there. And there's a million pop by ideas. And I believe, I want to say I marked down, I am going to family reunion end of next week. And one of the classes is on events and pop by ideas that I'm definitely going to take. So I'm hoping to come back with lots of great information on things like that. But can anyone else give me an example of a pop by idea or something that you have done or would like to do?
I did it yesterday, Gina. I think I already told you that. But
Yeah.
I actually bought these little boxes. I had no idea what were in them, but they were candies. It was from Home Goods. And I added cards that I personally wrote on top and dropped it off. It took me 3 hours to drive around and drop off to like 15 people, but it was
awesome.
good because I got text messages back. Some of them are just people who have told me they will refer because I'm still, I mean, I shouldn't be this new, but I'm kind of new and I'm still trying to build. So I appreciate them because they've talked to me about people before, maybe people who haven't worked out or have, whatever. And then my past clients. So
Very
yeah.
good. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be, I was talking to somebody yesterday and she said, is it okay that I'm only doing 15? And I said, oh my gosh, that's a great number. You don't have to do 100 to make it worthwhile. Don't inflate the number of doing something to a point where you'll do nothing. It's no different than calls. If I'm overwhelmed by the idea of calling 20 people today, and then I'm going to call no one. So make sure that you realize that every inch forward is something. So I'm not giving people a pass and saying make five calls a day. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if it's too big of a number for you, then I think 10 to 15 pop buys is a great number. Those are 10 to 15 people that you're keeping top of mind. And then maybe next month it's a different 10 to 15 people. And that way you're spreading out the time and you're touching different people throughout the year. And then also you don't have to spend a ton of money all at one time either, So anybody else have any pop by ideas or things that you would want to learn more about with pop buys?
I actually had a couple ideas. I heard somebody else had mentioned them, but over the wintertime, they were delivering bags of salt. I mean, a bag of salt is really cheap.
Yeah.
So they were using that or an ice scraper.
I love that. I love that. And it's a great, I would also do this too. When I'm doing my Popeyes, don't feel like you have to knock on the door and spend an hour talking to everybody. You certainly can. I happen to like to leave whatever I'm leaving on the porch. So be careful if it's food that in the summertime, you're not leaving a pie just sitting on someone's porch. That's not what I'm suggesting, but different things that you could just hang on the door or like a plant that you can just put on somebody's doorstep. with something. Make sure that you put something on it that recognizes who you are. So whether it be, and I don't know that I would necessarily just like staple my business card to it. I would create, and I have created something special, some kind of a postcard that is saying something about what I'm leaving them. So, I've talked about this recently, bags of seeds, and then have a cute little just banner on it that says something about growing this season. I'm trying to grow my business this season, so here's some seeds to grow something, whatever. I'm sure that ChatGPT can come up with some fabulous tagline. In any case, making it be memorable that way too. So, all right. So let's jump into our, I'm gonna throw in the 3x3 and the 5x5 and what that looks like for you all. And so now, you've got your database, you've got your tags, we know the definition of a top 50. Before I jump into this, think about this. Just with my top 50 people, I have their name, I have their number, I have their email address, and I have their home address. And I have a system around how I'm keeping in touch with them, because I'm going to do some 36 touch campaign of some sort. And I'm going to not like pretend like I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to do it. It's working. If you have 50 people that you are nurturing on a high level, just imagine this: every year, only half of them, let's take half of the 50, 25. If only 25 of them think of you and pass over somebody's name, only half. Now that's 25 names I didn't have. And let's say only half of them actually reach out to you or answer your call. So now we're down, let's just say, to 12. And then of those 12, maybe only half of them only let you come to their house to look at it or let you show houses. That's 6 transactions. And even if only 3 of them actually close. So my goal of my top 50 would be, I can close 3 transactions every year just from my top 50. That's thousands of dollars for just working a database of people that you already know. So keep that in mind. And remember, you're not looking, my top 50 is not bringing me 50 referrals. That would be great. That would be great. But if I close 3 to 5 transactions every year just from that one group, that's thousands and thousands of dollars that I didn't spend a ton of time and a ton of money on. All right. So the 3x3 and the 5x5 are different approaches to follow up. So how can I incorporate these touches? How can I reach out to people by text, email, phone calls, making comments on social media in a systematic way that will also help me grow my business? So this is a couple of techniques that will help you not only touch your current database, but also add to the database. So not necessarily your top 50, but just overall, in general, your database. So let's first jump into the 3x3x3. So what that means is, I've received a lead in some way. It's a lead that maybe is an internet lead. Maybe it's someone that I met at open house. Maybe it's a referral. Maybe it's just somebody that I bumped into at the coffee shop, whatever. Doesn't necessarily have to be, we define lead as someone who maybe is going to buy or sell, right? So it could just be a contact. You should call, text, and email, call, text, and email, call, text, and email. So that's 3 things for 3 days. Okay. And that is until they respond. That doesn't mean that I'm going to keep doing that. And we learned this a couple weeks ago when Kay came and talked to us about being an inside sales associate. And that's where that call, text, and email came in. Obviously, if they respond day 1, we suspend the call, texting, and email. This is because we want those in particular internet leads to actually reply to us. So you're going to do those 3 things for 3 days until they either respond and then you decide what to do with them from there, or move them into a nurture drip campaign. So let me say this. Just because they don't reply doesn't mean I archive them. I hear a lot of people talking about, well, they never replied to me and then I just trashed them out. What makes you think that they were ready right now? I mean, we all are consumers of lots of things. If I go to a car dealership or if I on a website for a car dealership and I'm not really gonna buy right now, I wouldn't have just been looking for the heck of it. Maybe I'm gonna wait till summertime. And aren't I gonna then reply when I'm ready? So I might be that person who doesn't necessarily reply right now today, but sometimes I will. Does anyone know what the average person that's, we'll say in particular internet lead, how many touches it takes on average before they actually reply? Anybody know?
Was it like 12 or something like that?
It's 12 to 15 times. Yep. So it could take somebody that many times before they finally reply. Again, remember this. So when I call, I may or may not be leaving a voicemail, but if you don't leave a voicemail, don't plan on a call back. Like, I don't know about you, but if people call me and they don't leave me a message, I may not call them back because I don't know what they wanted, you know? If it was important enough, then they would have left a message. The email is really just a light touch. The text is a, hey, I've tried to reach you by phone and by email and I didn't get a response, so I thought I would text. And you're gonna come up with a series of different things that you can say. Let's talk about when you're reaching out, what kinds of things that you're saying. I would definitely be following up, you know, and using the scripts that we practice. That's why we do scripting every other Friday. And I know you guys and a lot of you do, but more of you should have scripting partners because these are the kind of things that are going to help you when you're on those calls. Imagine that you called 3 times and on day 3 they answer and you're kind of caught off guard by that. You know, you need to have a plan. So besides, I have to have my list of who I'm following up with today. You need to know what you're saying. Where did this person come from? And what am I going to say in reply to that? And that's where practicing scripting comes in. Pretty simple system that's typically used for it's not going to be your SOI. Your SOI is probably going to answer the phone, right? So that's going to be somebody that's come to you, potentially even open house. I'll be honest, sometimes, like I know all of you guys that do open house, not everybody answers their phone the next day when you follow up with them. Same thing. You got their number from them. They gave it to you. This is not meant for cold calling. We don't want any more issues with do not call lists. So I'm not suggesting that you're finding a list of phone numbers from someplace or using a dialer of some kind. If someone gave you their phone number, then they signed in and they gave you their phone number. That is then permission. Remember this though, at your open houses, if you guys aren't doing this and it brings up that topic, there should be something on your sign-in sheet that says, by giving me your contact information, you've given me permission to contact you. Just a little sentence that you can put at the bottom of your sign-in sheet there. I don't know about you, if I'm on a website looking at something and I don't want to be contacted, I'm probably gonna put a fake phone number if I don't want to be contacted. If I put my real phone number, it's because I probably checked a box that said, yes, I give you permission to reach out. So remember that. Any questions about that before I move on to the next one? All right. So building your database through your SOI. And so again, this is not necessarily just for your top 50. Remember, our top 50 is just a tag. It's just a group of people within our database. So the 5x5 means this, that I'm going to, for 5 days, make 5 phone calls. And that I'm going to then set them on a plan where I'm going to reach out in 5 days again. So that's where that kind of comes in. So let me explain that and break it down a little bit more. So for 5 days, so on Monday morning, I'm going to call 5 people. So we all struggle with this. We're not very good ISAs. That's why people that can leverage it out hire ISAs, which stands for Inside Sales Associate. But the bad news is most of us are our own inside sales associate. It's just not our most favorite thing. I'm sure if we asked any real estate agent what was their least favorite thing about real estate, they would all say the same thing, and that's making these lead generating phone calls. I don't know why it's so painful. I agree, it's painful for me as well. In any case, it just is one of the things that's a necessary evil. And so here's a simple system where if you aren't that person that can say, I'm gonna do a bold 100 every day, or I'm gonna contact 20 people every day, or I'm gonna have 5 meaningful conversations every day, or whatever it is, or I'm gonna just make phone calls until I get an appointment. If you're not that driven person, because we know that they're out there. I can picture a couple in my mind. If you're not that driven, don't lie to yourself. We're not the same. We're all very different. And some people will sit in an office and make phone calls until they get an appointment. That's a very driven person who's probably going to find success before those of us who aren't willing to do that. And that's okay. It's your business. It could look like whatever you want. But here's a real simple way of growing your database and forcing yourself to make these touches in a very light way. So for 5 days, so let's say we start this on Monday, I'm going to make 5 calls that are going to last no more than 5 minutes. And that means I have to talk to 5 people though. It's not just 5 and done. It's until I reach 5 people. And remember, this is from your SOI. So this is building a database from your SOI. So these are the people that you already know. This is not cold calling in any way. These are your SOI. That's your sphere of influence. These are friends, families that I spend time with. These are my neighbors that I know. You have their contact information because they gave it to you. And then there's scripts around that. So this is when you're going to decide, am I going to use the forward script? Or here's a great opportunity to do this. I have these people in my cell phone and I have their number, but I don't have their email address. So maybe this week, the topic of my 5 calls for the 5 days is going to be getting email addresses. So you need to know going into the call, and by the way, I would group them to be all the same. Don't make it be loosey-goosey math confusion. Have a topic, script it out and practice it. So maybe this Monday, my 5 calls every day is going to be, whose email addresses don't I have? And you can find that in command. You can break it down and know whose email addresses don't I have when you're auditing your database. And my script is going to be, hey, I want to grow my business this year, Kurt, and I was thinking about you, and I just want to let you know I'm really looking to grow my real estate business this year, and I've got all this great information about the market. Everyone's talking about real estate, talking about interest rates. I really made a full-time job out of learning more about our community, and I'd love to send you some valuable information. I promise, not all the time, but throughout the year. So go ahead and give me your email address. I noticed that I don't have it. I may have had it at one time, but I don't seem to have it now. Like whatever you need to do to lighten the blow of asking for an email address. But go ahead and give me. And by the way, guys, never, 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 you hear me say it all the time, never ask for someone's email address. It's always go ahead and give me. And then chances are they will. If you say, can I have it? That's a yes or no question. You never, ever want to ask people yes or no questions, because be ready for the no then. So the simple thing is go ahead and give me, and I promise I won't inundate you with emails, but I want to send you some valuable information about our community and the market. That's one script. There could be a lot of different things that you can throw in there, whatever your comfort zone is, but I would recommend you practicing that kind of thing out with your scripting partners. And then you collect email addresses. So that might be one thing that you're saying, or it could be, like I said earlier, hey, I was driving past your house and I was showing houses and I thought about you. That's another lead in, or use the forward script or any number of things you're calling about. It could be an invite to something. Whatever that looks like, it's a touch. That's one touch. So it's 5 phone calls for 5 minutes. And now I make sure that I have them in my database. And then I'm going to then put them on my tasks for to do. So now it's not just done. I need to now put them on a to-do list for that in 1 month. I'm gonna send them some kind of mailing, some kind of a postcard. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Need to put my glasses back on. I'm sorry. In a month, I'm gonna go on to their social media, because by the way, we should be friends with all these people. Remember, if you're not, then you friend request them at that point. Then I'm gonna go on their social media and I'm going to not only like a post. I don't know what they say, there's stats on this. Liking a post is basically just as bad as not liking a post, because no one really pays attention to how many people like their posts. You need to comment. You need to comment, and if you want to engage in conversation, you should say something that causes them to reply. So that same person I talked to a month ago, I'm gonna go on their social media, because I set myself a to-do on Monday morning in a month. I'm going to go on their social media, I'm gonna say some kind of a comment, and I'm gonna ask a question so that they can engage with me. So it's the same 5 people. So imagine that March 1st is a Monday and I'm doing my 5 calls, then April 1st or whatever that Monday is gonna be, I'm going to now still be making my 5 calls to 5 new people, but I'm gonna also be commenting on the people from a month ago's post. And so I'm gonna re-engage them in a month. So now you've kept them top of mind for a month. Make sense? And you're doing this for 5 days. So by the end of the week, I've got 25 people that I have reached out to and talked to. In a month, I'm going to then reach out to them on social media. All the while I'm doing this every week and I'm building, I'm adding 25 people every single week, either into my database because I didn't have them there before, or I'm auditing them in my database to make sure I have all their content information. And it's forcing me to make sure that I'm friends with them on social media, because in a month I'm going to be forced to comment. So on day 31, I'm calling 5 people, just like I was before, but I'm now adding the social media comment. How long do you think that's taken you so far? Well, if you're calling 5 people for 5 minutes, that's 25 minutes. And I don't know about you, you can probably comment on 5 people's posts and ask a question in 5 minutes. So by the way, on day 31, you're not doing any more than 30 minutes on this. And then you're gonna set yourself a to-do that in another month, you're gonna send them that handwritten note card and some business cards. So same 5 people from day 1 are going to get touched by you on day 31 and then day 61. In day 61, it's a handwritten note card. So now in the cycle on day 61, I'm making my 5 phone calls to 5 different people. I'm commenting on the 5 people from a month ago, and I'm now writing 5 handwritten note cards. So now it might take me a little bit longer to write those handwritten note cards. Let's just say it takes you 15 minutes. That's still only 45 minutes every day that you're working on growing your database and making sure that you have everybody's name, number, email address. Well, you have their number if you called them, but that you have a complete contact for them, including their address, because now you know that you've mailed them something. You're also know that you're friends with them on social media, if they're on social media, of course, because you commented on a post of theirs. And then you now set that cycle to repeat. So I lost track of where the numbers are, but if you're doing this 5 days a week, you've added 100 people to your database, right? And now at the end of 3 months, you've added 300 people to your database. And that 300 then is going to get cycled back in again, and you start it over again. So that forces you to touch them several times each quarter. You've called, you've said something on social media, and then you sent them a handwritten note card, and then you start it all over again. And then imagine that you add to that. So maybe now I'm going to add 5 new people again. And then just look at that. How many is that going to get you at the end of a whole year? So if you really enforce this for 12 months, you should have 1,200 people in your database at the end of 1 year. So even as a brand new person, that's a really good number to have that many people in your database. And especially with your database having everybody's name, number, email address, home address, and I'm friends with them on social media. And it forces you, if you're doing it right, so in Command, or if you're using Boomtown or whatever CRM you're using, you can create to-dos or tasks for yourself. If you're doing that, you're gonna remember to do it. Here's what I do. I'm a calendar maniac. You guys know I am a time blocking person. I just time block it in my phone. I know who I need to call and I put their phone number right on my calendar. So it's already in my Google Calendar. Who am I calling today? What time am I calling them? And I put their phone number right there next to it, because that way, right from my calendar, I can just click their phone number and it calls. And I don't have to then take that extra step to go into my contacts, because maybe then I might not do it. So that's the 5x5. Questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. I'm gonna stop share here real quick and then open it up for thoughts, comments, questions.
Gina, are you putting those names and numbers in your calendar like at the beginning of the week? Like you're setting your whole week up and that's when you're doing it? Okay.
Yeah, so like to make it easy on yourself, decide what the category is, kind of thing, what group in my database, or what group of people that aren't in my database, even better. Who do I know? What network? So like, is this week going to be focused on people I know from this activity I do? Maybe maybe this week it's going to be my neighbors. Have a topic or a group so that you know what you're focusing on, so it's not random. That's why, when we look at doing the calling your A's and your Z's and then calling your B's and working your way through the alphabet that way, it keeps you on track. So if I say today I'm going to call everybody in my contacts that last name starts with an A and last name starts with a Z. It's just a group. It's a way of keeping yourself somewhat organized so that you have a target, right? So it could be that, or it could be, I'm going to look at my database and see whose email address I don't have, kind of a thing. It really could be. So Kim, I know you do a lot with the swim team in North Canton. So maybe it's, how can I get those people in my database? So this week I'm going to focus on those 25 people, right?
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense.
Mhm. Yep, and so then, so one, knowing who is the group I'm gonna call, and two, what am I saying? What's my script for this call? And make it easy on yourself. You don't have to change it up. It should be the same basic. Now, mind you, our people don't know we're following a script. They don't always follow our script. They might want to talk about something else, and that's fine too. Whatever it is. But you should be going into that call, making it really easy on yourself. Imagine that you call 25 people this week and you have to think of 25 different things to talk about. It just doesn't make any sense. You should be thinking of the same type of things or a roundabout so that it makes those calls nice and easy. And I know a lot of you, I talk to you guys about this all the time. Some people like talking to strangers better than they like talking to the people that they know. And it's not because they don't like the people that they know, is because it's definitely uncomfortable to be calling those people that they know and trying to talk to them about like something that they need, meaning I want you to work with me. So here's a good idea for a topic. Always when you're coming from a place of service, it's never going to sound like you're trying to take something from them. You're calling them to offer them something. So maybe I'm calling to say this. And I would also say this, guys, I plan it out for the year. So what's my hot topic in January? What's my hot topic going to be in April? And so on. Look at a calendar and space that out a little bit and know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm going to do different events throughout the year and my call is an invite to the event. Or I'm going to put together a vendors list. Thank you. And on that list is going to be landscapers, window washers, power washers, people that come and fertilize lawns, whatever it is, and your contact and then say, hey, you know what, as a local real estate agent, I wanted to let you know that I'm putting together this list of preferred vendors that do a really good job on these things for spring cleanup. And if you call those people and say, hey, I'd like to add you to my vendors list, is there any kind of special that you would offer to the clients that use your services or a coupon or something? Then you can put together a flyer even. Hey, I just wanted to drop this flyer in the mail to you, but I wanted to call and let you know to watch for it. Or you could do this. That information could be on your website. Hey, I just wanted to call to let you know that I've created this great website with lots of valuable information about the community. And one of the things that I'm feeding it with information this month is all kinds of different spring ideas and yard cleanup and different things you can do to organize your garage. And just, I mean, I'm literally making this up as I'm talking right now, you know, like there's just a million things you can think of. And so, hey, Kim, visit my website. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send you a little note card with all my cards in it. And there's going to be a QR code that you can scan to my website, or you can just go to my website and all that information will be there. You're calling them to tell them that you're helping them with information. You're not trying to take anything from them. So that's how you get around thinking that those calls are going to feel weird. Local community activities that are going on. Maybe you're sponsoring some kind of event and you're calling to let people know. So I sponsored a pickleball tournament, Dink for Pink, it was called, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I could call people I know and say, hey, would you like to be in this event with me? That's a great touch. Or just letting them know that you were doing that event. So there's just a number of things that you can have as a topic. What else? What other questions do we have? If you don't have any questions, I guess my question to you all is this: who's going to do something like we learned about today? What piece of this is something that you can see implementing into your business, or all of it? So like, who's going to raise their hand and say, I have started a top 50. There's only 5 people in it so far, but I'm looking to grow that. Who's going to say, I like the idea of the calling 5 people for 5 minutes for 5 days. Like, who's going to actually implement this? Because, you know, we do these classes, Janice and I, all the time. And then, you know, eventually you guys sell houses, but we don't always know necessarily what was directly related to something that you picked up from a class. So I love to hear who, I see someone has their hand. Oh, nope, that was just my mouse. Who is going to implement some piece of what they learned here today?
I'm definitely gonna my database on my phone and from my work computer, which I talked about.
Yep.
In my command.
Yeah.
And then start going through and getting emails and.
Yeah. And that
Yes,
looks
and
like
that's-
calls, right? Like if you've got their phone number, that's a phone call. And then learning what to say makes you feel comfortable doing it. Yep. Kim, I see you have your hand up.
I know I did it the right way. Okay. I was adding people from my phone to my database today.
Mhm.
And I was realizing how much I'm missing. So I think I'm going to do the 5 calls, 5 days next week for sure, just to try to view it as a goal of filling in.
Absolutely. I love that. Anybody else? All right, then. Well, I will let you guys go. Have a fantastic weekend and let Janice and I know if you need anything. And later today, I will upload the checklist for getting on that group of KWPC certified for working with open houses and buyers for agents in the office.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.